facilitating the setting up of a transition monitoring and evaluation mechanism to work for the speedy restoration of constitutional order. The announcement comes after Niger's de facto ruler, General Abdourahmane Tiani, met with Togo's President Farouk Gnassingbe, from whom he had requested mediation. In his opening statement, Chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State, Bola Tinubu, and government urged West African leaders to prioritize good governance for the people. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has signed cooperation agreement during a visit to his Equatorial Guinean counterpart as the isolated Kremlin ally seeks African support during the Ukrainian war. Lukashenko met Equatorial Guinea's President Teodora Obiang Nguema Mbasogo in the capital, Malabo, as part of an African tour to bolster ties on the continent. He said deals were signed on launching the first phase of a regional center to promote Belarusian products in Central and West African markets, adding that projects in industry, education, health and agriculture are due to be completed by 2026 and have been studied for months by a joint commission presided by the country's foreign minister. Reports say Western countries have sanctioned Belarus and isolated Lukashenko for his first backing of a Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and a crackdown on domestic dissent. On an official visit to Minsk in September, the first by an Equatorial Guinean leader, Mbasogo denounced the dictates of Western multinationals, taking up a common theme in Kremlin rhetoric. And all police stations opened for Egyptians to vote in a presidential election overshadowed by a war in neighboring Gaza, and with little doubt that the incumbent Abdel Fattah al-Sisi will secure a third term. In a country gripped by the most severe financial crisis in its recent history, inflation has hovered near 40% after the currency lost half its value and drove up the cost of imports. The economy is the crux of Egyptians' concern. Even before the current crisis, about two-thirds of the country's nearly 106 million people were living on or below the poverty line. Before the polls opened, dozens of voters had already crowded in front of a polling station in a central Cairo school amidst heavy security, as voting will take place until Tuesday, with the official results to be announced on December 18. Some 67 million people are eligible to vote, and all eyes will be on turnout after successful previous elections mustered low participation figures. Despite Egypt's afflictions, a decade-long crackdown on dissent has eliminated any serious opposition to Sisi, the fifth president to emerge from within the ranks of the military since 1952. Zimbabwe has held special elections for 9 seats in parliament after opposition lawmakers were removed from their positions and disqualified from running again. The opposition called it an illegal push by the ruling ZANU-PF party to bolster its parliamentary majority and possibly change the constitution. This may allow President Emerson Mnangagwa, 81, who was re-elected for a second and final term in August, an international and regional criticism to run for another term. All 9 opposition lawmakers from the Citizens Coalition for Change party that were removed were elected in the national vote in August. The CCC said on the eve of the special election that it had launched an appeal with the Supreme Court demanding that 8 of its candidates appear on the ballot. The main opposition party said the removal of its lawmakers is a brazen attempt by the ruling party to increase its control in parliament and has accused ZANU-PF, which has been in power since the Southern African country's independence in 1980, of using the courts to help it do that. now the Australian government says it will halve the migration intake within 2 years in a bid to fix the country's broken immigration system. It aims to slash the annual intake to 250,000, roughly in line with pre-pandemic levels by June 2025, as visa rules for international students and low-skilled workers will also be tightened under the new plan. Migration has climbed to record levels in Australia, adding pressure to housing and infrastructure woes. But there remain a shortage of skilled workers and the country struggles to attract them. Unveiling a new 10-year immigration strategy at a media briefing on Monday, Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill said the migration system had been left in tatters by the previous government. A record 510,000 people came to Australia in the year to June 2023, but the minister said her government will bring numbers back under control and reduce the annual immigration or migration intake by around 50%. Among the new measures are tougher minimum English language requirements for international students and more scrutiny of those applying for a second visa. Ms. O'Neill said the new policies will attract more of the workers Australia needs and help reduce the risk of exploitation for those who live, work and study in the country. And our reports reaching our news desk has it that about 200 members of Afghan Special Forces trained and funded by the UK face imminent deportation to their Taliban-controlled homeland. The figures gathered by a network of Afghan veterans reveal the scale of what a former UK general called a betrayal and disgrace. The soldiers fled to Pakistan, which now says it will expel Afghan refugees, but the UK said it has brought thousands of Afghans to safety. General Sir Richard Burns, who served the British Army in Afghanistan over 12 years, said the failure of the UK to relocate those soldiers is a disgrace. In 2021, Prime Minister Boris Johnson had told Parliament that the service of these Afghan Special Forces had been incredibly important, adding the UK would do whatever they can to get safe passage for them. And now Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is heading to the White House as Joe Biden's administration is stepping up pressure on Congress to provide billions more in aid to Kyiv. The White House said in a statement that the visit is intended to underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine as they defend themselves against Russia's brutal invasion. Zelensky's office confirmed that he had accepted Biden's invitation and has also been asked to speak to a meeting of all senators. Biden has asked Congress for a $110 billion package of wartime funding for Ukraine and Israel, along with other national security priorities, but the request is caught up in a debate over its immigration policy and border security. Argentina's new far-right president, Javier Milei, has vowed to deliver economic shock treatment in his first speech after formally taking office. Javier Milei warned Argentines that there is no money and recommitted to a program of harsh austerity measures. The populist outsider won a surprise election victory in November with radical pledge to overhaul the South American nation's ailing economy. In a day of pomp and ceremony, the 53-year-old capped his extraordinary rise to power with a speech which left Argentines in no doubt he intends to embark on an economic path unlike any previous president. Javier Milei, whose inauguration was held in Buenos Aires, said he would undo a decade of decadence with deep spending cuts designed to slash huge public debt and drive down inflation, which is now higher than 140%. And now the Commissioner General of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Filippi Lazzarini, said Israel appears to be trying to clear Gaza of its Palestinian population through its military offensive and evacuation orders. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi also accused Israel of being determined to push Palestinians out of Gaza. However, Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levi has called the allegations outrageous and false, but that it is prepared to fight for months or longer to defeat Gaza's Hamas rulers. Qatar, which has played a key mediation role between the warring parties, says efforts to stop the war and have all hostages released will continue, but a willingness to discuss a ceasefire is fading. And that's how far we can go on the Foreign Tidbits today on Rstv. But to end it, ECOWAS has set up committee to negotiate with Niger junta and return to civilian rule. Belarus and Equatorial Guinea have signed agreements and Minsk since allies. We had also told you that Australian government has said it will halve migration intake within 2 years in a bid to fix broken immigration. Thanks for listening to Foreign Tidbits today on Rstv. This was put together by Patience Fubara and her crew. My name is Ebere Inda. Good afternoon.